All right, it is time for a confession. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned, etc., etc. So, I took the time to watch an anime that I'm genuinely surprised I didn't see many reviews for here on good old YouTube or really on any other social media platform. People who are into horror anime have probably heard of the Blood franchise at some point or another. It started with a film called Blood the Last Vampire, which was then followed up with a series called Blood Plus, and then finally Blood C and its accompanying film. Now, maybe the origins are in a manga or something like that. I don't know. I don't pay attention to most manga, so hold it against me or don't. I don't really care. Here's the thing, though. If any of you are just as twisted as I am and you have the tendency to look up videos like top 10 goriest anime ever and stuff like that, you probably have heard of this series. You've probably seen the infamous human blender scene. So you have some sort of passing knowledge of what's going on in this particular series. Basically, small little town, people are getting butchered left and right, yada yada yada. Here's the thing. Calling it one of the goriest anime ever is accurate, by the way. In fact, now that I think about it, it's probably the bloodiest anime I can think of not named Hellsing Ultimate since anime in the 90s where you had stuff like Biohunter and Genocyber, which of course were infamous for their gore. The thing is, I've never actually seen this particular series before. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I really like horror as a genre. I like horror films, I like horror anime, and really just horror anything, especially if it spills buckets of blood. I am a self-confessed gore hound. In fact, my second comic book I wrote and published is a horror story with gallons of the red stuff called 3 Nights, 4 Days, which, by the way, you can go and back that on Indiegogo, whether you missed the first issue and you want to pick that up, or get a pre-order in for the second book. Either way, you would think that, as someone who enjoys ye olde animated ketchup, that I would have seen this already. But I hadn't. It had been on the back burner for me for ages, so my curiosity finally got to me, and I sat my happy ass down and watched it. To be truthful with you, this is a story that really caught me off guard in regards to its level of quality. I was expecting a pretty shallow gore fest, with, the cute anime girl with a sword going around cutting up monsters. Pretty standard affair, right? Well, there is that. That is a thing that happens. There is indeed a cute anime girl going around and cutting up monsters. However, there's also some layers to the story that I really enjoyed. There's something throughout this entire show that just feels off. Almost like you're missing the piece of a puzzle, or that there's a small detail you think you might have overlooked while you were watching it. Maybe you go back and you watch the episode over or something like that and you realize, no, I didn't really miss anything. It just hasn't been given to me yet. But then again, that's the point. I won't go into details of what I mean, though, until we get later on into the review. Let me give a little bit more plot synopsis. Our protagonist is a lovely young lady by the name of Saya. At first glance, if she didn't have the sword, you'd think that she's another cute anime girl protagonist in some slice of life anime or something. Heck, she's actually designed by Clamp. For those who don't know, they're the manga team that did Magic Knight Rayearth and Cardcaptor Sakura. So these gals are basically the masters of designing cute anime girls. Now, Saya has a pretty simple life. She's a shrine maiden working with her father, and she tends to be a bit of a bubblehead. She doesn't have much in the way of common sense, but what she does have in spades is positivity. She's overall a very sweet girl who just wants to do the right thing and protect her friends from monsters. If she were any cuter and sweeter, you would get diabetes from this series. However, her nightlife is different. As I mentioned, she wants to protect the people she cares about from monsters. She wields a sacred sword and has to protect her town from said monsters, which are called Elder Barons. Now, after the first battle at the end of episode 1, you'll have an established idea of what her daily life is like. Wake up, go get breakfast, go to school, come home, say that you love your dad, eat dinner with him, go kill monsters, go to sleep, rinse, repeat, the whole 9 yards. Now, if and or when you watch this series, that established idea of what the daily life is like is something you're going to want to keep in mind. One thing that I really like about this particular show is you do actually have to pay attention to it. On the surface, like I said, it comes across like a standard monster of the week. You know, monsters that you see in this are very well designed, no two look alike, and they're very well thought out and have some overall neat designs. So, needless to say, I like the art direction. Not to mention, these particular beasties are looking to feast on humans, so you can look forward to lots of brutal deaths. As I alluded to earlier, there's something beneath the surface, and I think that that's what made me enjoy this series as much as I did. I mean, I'm the type of person that can easily enjoy something that's just standard monster of the week. Monster dies gory death, humans die gory deaths, yada yada yada. You know, I can eat popcorn to that all day. But, then again, sometimes it's nice to have a little bit more. Now, in regards to the way that the show is animated, it's actually animated pretty well. Character designs don't go super far beyond the norm, at least when it comes to the humans, but at the very least, each character has some type of distinctive qualities that separate them from one another. Some of them tend to fall into archetypes of the type of characters that you see in sort of a high school anime, but the reason that they fall into that archetype is built into the plot. Everything about this series is well thought out and 100% intentional. The way the characters act, the way they interact with one another, the stories they tell, when those stories are told, and so forth, are all chosen very deliberately to serve the overall plot, specifically a twist that comes in later on. Now, that's why I called this particular review More Than Gore. It's a series that's deceptively clever in its concept. Admittedly, though, it does have some glaring weaknesses because of the things that it tries to do. So I'm not going to reveal who the main villain is, but I'm not of the opinion that he was as well executed as he could have been. Then again, like I said earlier, this is a show with a twist in it. And not only is it one with a twist in it, it's one that has a twist that's similar to an M. Night Shyamalan film. In fact, he would probably like this one, but it's actually executed much better. The thing about having a late twist, which in this case isn't seen until the next to last episode, is that if you start trying to develop a villain in any sort of an overt way, you're going to sacrifice the impact of the twist itself. From a writer's perspective, you're left with a tough choice. Do you develop the villain at the expense of your twist? Or do you develop your twist at the potential expense of the villain character? The only way you can really avert this is the twist itself has to make your villain come across like he's just a shade short of Hitler. And that doesn't really happen here. Motivations of the villain are not really as flat out evil. It's evil, don't get me wrong, but it's not the kind of evil that makes you really hate the guy as much as it just weirds you out about him. Now, that's everything I can say without spoiling the main series. There's a sequel film to this particular series that takes place after the big twist, but it's not as good. Now, I have to get into more details in the spoiler section, but overall, it's supposed to be the section where the bad guy gets his butt kicked, but the ending is just kind of flat. However, what I will say is that I can recommend Blood Sea as a series, if you're a horror aficionado especially. If you're somebody who likes bloody horror that's a little bit more well thought out than average, you're going to have fun with this. Not to mention, Saya as a character is actually very refreshing as a protagonist. It's nice to actually have a lead character that is a very positive human being, and the series as it goes on just slowly chips away at that positivity until the big reveal. And I love shit like that. It's such a breath of fresh air. So, when it comes to this particular series, it's not hard to find on streaming services. I'm pretty sure it's on Funimation. I know it's on Hulu, because that's where I watched it. And it wouldn't surprise me if the subtitled version is available in other places. I watched the dub because I don't speak Japanese yet. And I like subtitles in languages that I can speak. I'll watch subbed anime if I have to, but if I don't have to, then I don't. Okay, needless to say, you get a recommendation on this one from me. So now it's time to get into spoiler time. In fact, there's giant letters saying spoiler time in front of your eyeballs right now if you're watching this. Now, if you got me in the background as background noise, I need you to look at your screen for a second. What you're seeing is a photo of Sumeragi Lee Noriega from Gundam 00 and her big boobs. Now we're going to put the spoiler time text in the middle of those boobs so that you pay attention for 5 seconds and realize that it's spoiler time. Okay, now there's not a single soul who has any excuses that I am about to spoil this fucking series. Alright? Alright. Don't you type that comment, Steve. I see you. Okay. You know the part where I said that just about every decision in this show tends to lend itself to the big twist? Well, it sure as shit does. I was not lying to you. From the beginning, as an audience member, you're constantly going to be feeling like somebody's not telling you something. It's a really weird feeling, because you're trying to piece together a puzzle with a piece that somebody else just won't fucking give you. The one thing that you realize is that there's more to Saya than meets the eye. Something's just not right here. And there's, on top of that, something really fucking weird about the village as a whole. There's small little details that are missing here and there. Some of the conversations feel like you walked in on them at a different point in time, even though you just stumbled on the people that are talking, things of that nature. It's very strange, and it's a weird sensation to deal with as you go through the series up until the next to last episode. Now, there's a reason for that. Many of the things that Saya is seeing are not completely real. Or rather, I should just say that this show is a blood-soaked version of The Truman Show. Yeah, you heard me right, the Jim Carrey film. The whole thing is arranged to test the mettle and moral character of the lead character. So, during the series, several of Saya's friends die in super violent ways. Except they didn't. All of those deaths, completely faked. Every single one of those main characters is still alive. The monsters were real, and the unnamed jobbers, the unnamed civilians, they were very real, and they actually did die. But because they're not central to the main character's life, they were considered expendable. Each of those characters was an actor, all of whom were hired by the main villain. As for our main heroine, she's not even human. You see, Saya is an elder baron who has taken on a human form. Beyond that, she's also a cannibal. She feeds on the blood of her own kind. Thing is, the villain of this series captured her and made a wager on whether or not she would still be a cold-blooded killer if she were to have her memories wiped and have to start all over again. To keep the facade going, he basically re-brainwashes her every morning that she comes to his shop to get breakfast. The coffee and food is spiked to reset her memory, for better or worse, because each time that she tries to drink the blood of a dead elder baron, she's actually getting some of her memories back. Now, our main villain, Fumito, has a very weird obsession with our main character and is trying to see what she's really made of. In the meantime, he's using vials of her blood to give to the elder barons as part of a covenant that humans and the elder barons have taken that keeps the elder barons from eating humanity indiscriminately into extinction. The deal is, basically, they get to eat humans, but they don't get to eat so many people that it's excessive. They get what they need to survive. Now, that same covenant allows for the very situation that's being presented. The monsters get to get their meals, while our main villain gets to have his experiment. Now, it is a twisted situation. I really like the twist here. But the motivations for the villain are kind of dumb. He's obsessed with Saya, and that's about it. I don't know if he's in love with her or what's going on here, but he's got a weird fascination about her. And the fact that that's it, and that he would go to these lengths to test this person, instead of honestly being a bit more twisted and coming across as such in his presentation of himself, honestly makes him ridiculously underwhelming as a villain. And that's what I meant about not developing the villain enough at the expense of the twist. Like I said, the twist is fantastic, but the fact that Fumito is not more evil feeling than he is honestly really hurts the series. Now, here's the thing. All the time that you spend with him, something does seem off about him. But the thing is that something feels off about everything. So you don't really think that's that big of a deal. Then the twist happens, you realize the dude is a massive prick, but it's not enough, basically. And with that said, now I have to talk about the movie. despite its flaws, Blood Sea is a good TV series. It's not great. It's not Devilman Crybaby, but it's good. It's very enjoyable. If you're somebody that would like to see the gore that you get in something like Dead Alive or Evil Dead with a little bit more seriousness, this is the show for you. However, the movie is flat. The story takes place in Tokyo, where Saya is hunting down Fumito. As it goes on, she meets a group that is trying to do the exact same thing, that's headed up by his paralyzed cousin, who was apparently crippled by Fumito himself. Fumito also killed this character's parents. The group that's put together to try to bring Fumito down is honestly made up of throwaway characters. They're just stereotypical anime characters like the cast of the main series was. But the problem here is that their lack of complication isn't the point of the show, nor does it really aid a twist in the story. They're just not well written. Just like the main series, the movie has a twist to it. Our crippled friend and Fumito are actually still in league with one another. The two of them are the heads of two different clans who oversee the covenant that was mentioned in the main series between the humans and the Elder Barons. However, the motivation of Mr. Cripple is that he wants power. And that's it. Again, it's too stereotypical. Oh, and Fumito is somehow able to turn the guy into a fucking kaiju using the blood of our protagonist. No, I don't know how that works either. Needless to say, our hero kills the bad guys and the movie ends. Overall, the movie barely exists at all. It just is kind of there. It doesn't really answer any questions. It just exists to let the main character kill the main bad guy. That's it. The movie ends. You get the W, and that's about it. Oh, and Saya gets naked. There's that too. So, if that's what you needed after watching the series, you needed to see the bad guy die, need to see Saya's tits, okay, you're gonna like this movie. But for the rest of us, it's just not good enough. I feel like I wasted a half an hour of my time, honestly. Not to mention, there's another problem with the narrative. You see, the idea of Saya just becoming another cold-blooded killer again sucks. She was a lot more interesting when she was a bubblehead, who just wanted to do the right thing and try to protect her friends. She was bad at protecting her friends. That's kind of the joke of the series to a lot of people. It's the big meme. But she was trying. You gotta give her an A for effort, I guess. But the thing is that breaking of the character, that breaking of the person is part of what makes the plot so interesting and gives you emotional investment. Without her still having some sort of an emotional high point, there's nowhere to go with her. She's basically just feeling like a robot the whole time. She becomes the stereotypical early 2000s anime protagonist where they're just a fucking sociopath. They're basically a robot. And here's the thing, it's really hard to make a character effectively a robot and make them interesting unless they're portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger or Peter Weller. Overall, though, I would say that I recommend the TV show for Blood Sea. It's good, but not great, like I mentioned. But again, I would put it in the same caliber as something like A Corpse Party, but better. So if you like that sort of thing, it's right up your alley. The other two parts of the Blood series, which are Plus and The Last Vampire, are ones that I'm probably going to revisit at some point. I remember Last Vampire being a pretty fun little action horror, but I don't remember much about it. When it comes to Plus, I don't remember anything. Before I take off, though, I want to say thank you all so much for watching this. If you enjoyed the video, there are ways to support the channel down in the description. Also, if the comic book that I mentioned in the middle of the video, 3 Nights, 4 Days, sounds cool to you, it is still available on Indiegogo to pre-order. Please do so if you have not done so already. Very much appreciate all of you guys for doing that who have already. Finally, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. My name is Micah Curtis, your favorite vanilla gorilla. Have yourselves a great rest of your day.